Describe a popular comic actor or actress you know. Chow Xing-chi, also was known as Stephen Chow, is one of my favourite actors next to Jackie Chan. He is a director, producer and actor. He was born on June 22, 1962 in Hong Kong. He made movies that captured the heart of each member of the family. He is the lead actor in Shaolin Soccer. He is good in martial arts and comedy. He is a genius in making his movies. I first saw him in the movie Shaolin Soccer, since my late father loved to watch martial arts. He caught my attention because I admire those who are good in martial arts, and he is good at making people laugh. His movies are very entertaining, like Shaolin Soccer, which was a box office hit. The movie was about an ex-soccer player who meets a Shaolin Kung Fu student trying to spread the word of Kung Fu. The ex-soccer player helps reconcile with his 5 brothers and teaches them soccer, adding Kung Fu as a twist. They build a soccer team with his brothers who are masters of Kung Fu. At the end, all of his teammates got injured, but then a lady came who helped them to win the game using Kung Fu. Good always wins above evil. Then they influenced everyone to learn Kung Fu and use it in their everyday life. He is popular because he is a genius who regales local audiences with wordplay and bathroom jokes. His 3 films include Shaolin Soccer, are the highest grossing films in Hong Kong history. Charles Spencer Chaplin was an English comic actor, filmmaker, and composer of silent film. He was born in England on April 16, 1889, and died in 1977. His childhood was full of hardships. His father was absent, while his mother, Hannah, struggled financially. When Charlie was 14, his mother was committed to a mental asylum. Despite all that, his career expanded and encompassed both adulation and controversy. He is now considered as one of the most important figures in the history of the film industry. I studied broadcasting and communication back in college. One of our subjects at school introduced Charlie Chaplin as one of the oldest and famous comedians. I became interested in him and started to search and learn more about him through books and surfing the internet. He performed different roles in various films like Sherlock Holmes and Sainsbury's Gym. He also performed stage plays and went on tour with his brothers pursuing his acting career. His films generated a vast amount of money and publicity. He faced controversies in his work and his personal life. His acts were considered restrained and intelligent. Chaplin received many awards and honours, especially later in life. He even had a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Until now, Charlie Chaplin is also known by modern people because he's a part of history. When I was in college, he was a part of our lessons. I can still recall him because of his unique looks with his noticeable moustache.
Okay, so here are the first couple of sentences from this response. Notice this. He is one of my favorite actors. He is a director. He made. He is. Kind of repetitive to start so many of the sentences with he is. Just keep that in mind. For grammar, we need some variety.
I first saw him in the movie Shaolin Soccer, since my late father loved to watch martial arts. He caught my attention because I admire those who are good in martial arts.
Now, she keeps on saying good in martial arts. Usually we say somebody is good at something. So I'd suggest saying good at martial arts. Although using martial arts, it's a good phrase to use, but still it should be at.
And he is good at making people laugh.
Just like she does here.
His movies are very entertaining, like Shaolin Soccer, which was a box office hit.
Box office hit, so if a movie earns a lot of money, that's a good phrase to use.
The movie was about an ex-soccer player.
Now, here I need to talk a little bit about tenses. You see here, it was a box office hit. That's true because this happened in the past. The movie was about. Here she uses the past tense, but this movie still exists. You can still go see it. You see, here she uses the present tense correctly. Who meets, because it's in the movie. So this should also be present tense. The movie is about. When you're describing the movie or the book or whatever other piece of art that still exists, you should be using the present tense.
Who meets a Shaolin Kung Fu student trying to spread the word of Kung Fu. The ex-soccer player.
Now, ex-soccer player, yeah, I wouldn't say it's wrong. Although often we say former instead of ex.
Helps reconcile with his 5 brothers and teaches them soccer, adding Kung Fu as a twist.
Now, twists are countable, so it should be adding Kung Fu as a twist. Something that is added, maybe unexpectedly.
They build a soccer team with his brothers who are masters of Kung Fu.
I'm a little bit confused about this here. Who's the they? The ex-soccer player helps them. He talks about Kung Fu student. They build a soccer team with his brothers. I'm a little bit confused about who the they are and who the his is. Is this his brothers? Because if this is his brothers, why do we need the with his brothers? Anyway.
A team with his brothers who are masters of Kung Fu. At the end, all of his teammates got injured.
Now, here she switches to the past tense, which I'm not sure why she's doing this. And then here, also past tense. So she's going between present and past. Everything should be present when you are describing something that still exists.
But then a lady came who helped them to win the game using Kung Fu. Good always wins above evil.
Above evil. I think it's good always wins over evil or triumphs over evil. But anyway, this is a saying. And if it's a saying, why don't you say, as the saying goes, good always wins above evil. Or rather, good always wins over evil. So as the saying goes, good always wins over evil.
Then they influenced everyone to learn Kung Fu.
They influenced everyone to learn Kung Fu. I don't know if I would ever say somebody influenced somebody to do something. I wouldn't say it's wrong, but it's kind of... Why doesn't she say, under their influence, everyone started to learn Kung Fu? That would make more sense. Under their influence, everyone started to do something.
And use it in their everyday life.
So it's a lot of people, so a lot of lives. Use it in their everyday lives.
He is popular because he is a genius who regales local audiences with wordplay and bathroom jokes.
The regales is great. The bathroom jokes, maybe I would say bathroom humor instead of jokes. Maybe throw an example in there if you can think of anything. But I mean, hey, you just have 1 minute to prepare, so maybe you can't really think of anything. Which is another thing. How does she know so much about him? We'll see that in the second example also. I mean, it's not really realistic to know all these facts.
His 3 films include Shaolin Soccer, are the highest grossing films in Hong Kong.
Okay, I'm not sure what happened here. Which 3 films? What's she talking about here? Did she talk about any other films? These 3 films? I don't know what they are. But anyway, so these 3 films include Shaolin Soccer, which are... We need a which here. Unless you change this to including. So these 3 films, including Shaolin Soccer, are the highest grossing films in Hong Kong history. So either change this to including, or we need which here.
Films include Shaolin Soccer, are the highest grossing films in Hong Kong history.
The highest grossing is good, meaning they made the most money. Alright, so here's the second example.
Charles Spencer Chaplin was an English comic actor, filmmaker, and composer of silent film.
Okay, see, this is where it gets a bit weird. How are you going to know all his names? I think most people don't know that his middle name is Spencer. How does she know all these facts?
Silent film. He was born in England on April 16, 1889, and died in 1977.
If you go into the exam knowing the date someone was born on, I don't know. To the examiner, they're gonna think that you've come with a prepared answer if you know information like this.
77. His childhood was full of hardships. His father was absent, while his mother Hannah struggled financially.
He knows the mother's name. She knows the mother's name. She knows what happened to him when he was 14.
When Charlie was 14, his mother was committed to a mental asylum.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with the content, really, except it's not very realistic. I mean, here she uses committed to a mental asylum. This is all great.
Despite all that, his career expanded and encompassed both adulation and controversy.
I don't know what this is. His career expanded. Expanded is a bit of a weird word to use when you're talking about somebody's career. You could say his career really took off. That's what usually happens with careers. But expanded? These two words don't go together.
He is now considered as one of the most important figures in the history of the film industry.
And none of these sentences are connected. So his career took off, or whatever, and encompassed both, I don't know what this is in controversy. There are no examples. So how are these two linked? So why didn't she say, so now he is considered as one of the, just link these two, but there's nothing here. It's just sentence, sentence, sentence. There's no cohesion between the sentences.
As one of the most important figures in the history of the film industry.
Like this. She switches to, I studied broadcasting, but where is the connection?
I studied broadcasting and communication back.
So I guess this is where she learned about him. So I know later on she's going to talk about how he formed a big part of her curriculum, but she should put this here. So I know about him because when I studied broadcasting and communication, the topic of Charlie Chaplin formed a big part of our lessons or something like that. But she's talking about another cue here. I think the cue is probably something like, how do you know about this actor? So if you're going to talk about how you know, start it off with a phrase saying, how I know about him is when I was at school, I used to study blah, 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 blah.
Communication back in college.
Ooh, the back in college, that's good. Instead of saying when I was in college, she just says back in college.
One of our subjects at school introduced Charlie Chaplin.
Now, I know I always say you don't need to worry about mispronouncing names, but she is a native English speaker, and Charlie Chaplin is so famous. I can't believe she said Chaplin.
As one of the oldest and famous comedians.
Alright. Now here we have the superlative oldest. So for famous, this has to be the superlative also. So it's got to be most famous.
I became interested in him and started to search and learn more about him through books and surfing the internet. He performed different roles in various films like Sherlock Holmes and Sainsbury's Jim. He also performed stage plays and went on tour with his brothers pursuing his acting career.
Now it's a little bit weird. There's no pause here. She doesn't pause. I mean, she's reading off a piece of paper. So it doesn't come across as very natural, but damn, here you really need to pause. He also performed... Oh, hang on a second. Why is this performs? Is it performs?
He also performed stage plays.
Oh, it is. I don't know why this is performs, because this is in the past tense, right? So he also performed. Anyway, more important than the tense mix-up, he also performed stage plays and went on tour with his brothers, pursuing his acting career. Because this is a new idea. She really needs to pause, even though she's reading.
And went on tour with his brothers pursuing his acting career. His films generated a vast amount of money and publicity.
Publicity.
He faced controversies in his work and his personal life.
Okay.
His acts were considered restrained and intelligent.
It's just unconnected sentences. Like, okay, they generated a large amount of money. The controversies, what controversies are you talking about? She goes from controversies to his acts. Which acts? Are you talking about the acts that caused the controversy? Because if something is if something is controversial, it's not going to be restrained or intelligent. There's just such disconnect between these ideas.
His acts were considered restrained and intelligent. Chaplin received many awards and honors, especially later in life. He even had a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Now, this shows some connection. He even had a star. These two ideas follow.
Until now, Charlie Chaplin is also known by modern people because...
Okay, this is a bit weird. Until now, even now, not until now. Until is used to show that some change happened. So even now, he's still known by modern people. I don't know what modern people... If you say modern people, I think of evolution, how we have evolved from our ancestors like hundreds or maybe millions of years ago. He's also known nowadays because he's a part of history, not modern people.
Charlie Chaplin is also known by modern people because he's a part of history. When I was in college, he was a part of our lessons. I can still recall him because of his unique looks with his noticeable moustache.
I can still recall him. Okay. I mean, usually we recall things that happened to us. I don't know exactly what she recalls about him. So I can still recall learning about him, or I can still recall what he looks like. Because here she's talking about looks, right? So I can still recall what he looks like because of his unique look. Looks? Okay, looks is fine too. Notable mustache. Yeah, he did have that, I don't know, that like Hitler mustache.